Welcome back here to Progressive Dental. Very happy to be here with you on 565 Hooper Road in Enwell, New York. Progressive with 5 locations in the southern tier, and we are here with a special Sonny and D, Sonny Spira, myself, Dan Tortora, a product of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, celebrating Union-Endicott's athletics, and tonight here with the football team. And first up for football is their head coach, Tom Baleno. Tom, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. And Tom, first and foremost, for you to be a coach, be a leader, be someone who is teaching young minds, molding young minds, this has been a challenging year and a half. What could you say this challenge has done to make you a better leader?
Well, you're always trying to, problem solve. And, the one good thing about COVID, it actually brings people together. So it brings people together in difficult situations, and you've tried to find strength within each other and within yourself to be a better person.
For you navigating through all of this and having there's not a season, it's not the typical, going back and looking at it last year, fall ball, being under the lights and not having that. And then are you going to have something and waiting, and it gets into the winter, and then you get into the spring, and is March going to happen? How did you handle all of the uncertainty?
Well, that's a lot like football, right? You're always like sudden change. There's things that you just can't anticipate, and you just have to go with it and be able to adjust to it. I think the military that says improvise, adapt, and overcome. So that's really what it's about. And isn't that what life's about? That's one reason why I love football, is because it's a great mimic of what life is. So it brings together people of all different backgrounds, different race, different stature, tall, small, big, thin, and different economic backgrounds, and you just come together and you work and you fight and you battle through uncertainty with one another.
I'm going to ask you, Tommy, because I've known you since you were a little guy. So just talk a little bit about coming up as a player, then getting into the system, and then just talk about your progression from former Tiger athlete to now head varsity coach. And the stops along the way.
Well, I started playing football in the Endicott youth program. So you're talking when you're 7 years old, and played through with great coaches all the way through the modified and the JV and up to the varsity. So great coaches like Dan Council and Jim Trillo at the modified, and JV level, Wayne Tiddick, and then Ed Foley, Bart Gusha, all those all legendary coaches. So I was very fortunate to go through UE, and they've always been successful, and I was a part of a state championship team. So I was just happy to be part of a great success story like that. So if you asked me if I would ever been the head coach here, I would say, what's the odds of it? I'd go to school in Buffalo. I teach, to get a teaching degree. I figured I'd end up in Buffalo because that's where you do your student teaching, right? Yep. So I would never have thought that I was going to be able to get a job, especially in art, which has limited positions, back home. And I was fortunate that I was able to get a job at UE, and I wouldn't mind just volunteering, or maybe even being a JV coach. And then all of a sudden, boom, I'm an assistant on the varsity under Shane Hurd, and I was happy just being a D-back position guy. And then before you know it, I'm the defensive coordinator, and then Shane and I going to Cornell and coaching there, and I'm the head coach. So it is really a dream come true, something that I never really inspired to become. I just wanted to just be a part of football because I love the game so much, and I'm too old to play, so you get in the coach.
Yeah, I'll second that. So as the coach now, so what are some of the things, and when you went into it, you said you were kind of almost shocked, let's say, when you started. So now you're head varsity coach. What are some of the things that you said to yourself, these are what I would like to get accomplished, or I'd like to instill in a program, or you talk about culture, stuff like that?
Well, what was nice is I have not a great memory, but I have a memory of what it was like going through. And I just really wanted to keep, I'm more of a traditional kind of guy. I wanted to keep a lot of what was instilled in me through the coaches of the past. And I think that's very important. I mean, we learn from our ancestors, we learn from the people before us, and we just try to add to that. And it's more like organic kind of chemistry there, right? We're more like a tree where we kind of like grow from within with new fruit, opposed to being building a house. We're just adding stories upon it. So I just want things to grow from within, from what we had and kind of, become something bigger and better, but still remember, where we were from and how we kind of got that Tiger Pride that is used all the time, Tiger Pride. So some people that don't understand that just think it's just a quick cliche, but when you start hearing about it and then you start living it and then you start preaching it, it really becomes ingrained, and a lot of people still come around to UE events because of that Tiger Pride.
That's what I remember back in the day. There was always a section of fans that were your hardest critics, your biggest fan, but your hardest critics because they were there throughout those eras, right? So some of those, that still exists today. And working at Roma's, and then you'd go in and you had to I had to pass before the board. How did I do last night, guys? And it's funny because I still hear some of the same things and some of the same conversation. Now that you're in charge, you're lead of the program, right? What are some of the things that you really want to make sure get across? Like, what are some of the things you really want to make sure these young men develop?
Well, I think the biggest thing to develop young men, and what I want to get across, is becoming a good person. I know that sounds like it's really quick and off the cuff, but it's really true. And I think becoming a better person, a better version of yourself, a lot of it is about self-sacrifice. If you want to be a good brother, right, or if you want to be a good son, you're going to have to sacrifice for the people you love sometimes. You can't always do what you want, and that's about maturing and becoming better. When we're young, right, and you're a baby, we still want to act like a baby. A baby is spoiled. They always get what they want. When they cry, you change their diaper. When they're hungry, you give them food because they cry. At some point, you have to you have to service other people, right? And not always looking at yourself, what I need. But, when you're down and out, it's not like, what can I do to make myself feel better? Go help somebody else out. And then that in turn is going to make you a better person. So I think, especially in a day nowadays, and I hate to be very nostalgia. It's, back when I was a kid, I hate really saying that stuff. But I do think in part of the culture with Facebook and a lot of, I have my own page of this, or I have my own this, or I have my own that, it becomes very narcissistic. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes if it's not really taken lightly, people start thinking too much of themselves and, start thinking of others and servicing other people. And then you're going to become a good husband and a good father because you start caring about other people more than you care about yourself.
Yeah, servant leadership. I'm all in.
You were talking about ancestors and pulling from the past and taking the best of everybody that came before you. Who would you consider to be the best mentors in your life on or off the field?
That's a tough question because there's a lot of good. I played football for Coach Angeline. Ed Foley was my position coach. At UE, I wrestled for Sarge, who's a legendary coach as well. So I was very lucky. And then I went to college and I played for some great coaches there. Actually, Jerry Boyes, he just actually retired this year, and you're talking 20 years ago. So I was very fortunate to play under some great coaches. I was very fortunate to be in a community that was surrounded by my family. Not too many people in my family actually moved out of here. So I have grandparents, I have cousins, I have aunts, I have uncles. So I was always surrounded by a network of people that love me for who I am, and they're always going to be by me even when I make bad decisions. So I was fortunate with that. So it's hard to pick one person. The one of the first people that popped into my head is my grandfather. So Ted Screnzi, he just passed about 6 months ago or so. Actually, I was walking out to the football field during the COVID, and I found out that he passed. And he was a teacher. He was an artist. He was just a great guy, and was always there to serve other people, and he was always there for his family. So he pops in my head because because he just recently passed, and I learned a lot from him as well.
How do you handle something like that? I mean, my grandfather's passed away when I was 6 in the same year in 1992, and I still, 3 decades later, I still think about them. How do you, with it being so fresh 6 months ago, how do you move forward, and do you ever feel his positive energy?
Yeah, I mean, it's you don't want to just wait until someone passes before you realize that you miss them, right? So I always told myself, and I tell my players, you don't want to have any regrets in life. So when you I for whatever reason I got that wisdom. I don't know how. It just maybe I was blessed with it. Maybe I just have a great mom. I don't, or dad. Who knows? But so I always made sure when I went to see my grandfather, I always told he had a bald head, so I always kissed him on his bald head before I left because I knew someday it was going to be the last day that I did it. And the thing about life is you don't know when the last. You always remember the first, right? Because it's the first time. The first time you drive a car, right? You'll remember that. But the last sometimes sneak up on you and you just don't know when that is. So, live life without that, without those regrets, and just kind of, be passionate about whatever you do.
You live life like that, like you said. Don't just think about the first. Think about at any moment it could be your last. You could see somebody leaving and get in the car from lunch, and that's the last time you see mom or the last time you see your brother or whatever it may be. These last 18 months are supposed to show that to everybody that hasn't seen that, but you said that that's how you've been living life. So how have the last 18 months challenged you, made you better? If you already had that mindset, what did this time do?
Honestly, it sounds kind of, there was no really significant devastation that happened in my life from the COVID, and I feel sad for those who had to experience that. But during the COVID time, I kind of liked it. I liked the fact that I didn't feel like, I call it that American, American parent guilt. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and sometimes I always feel like, well, I have to take them to here. I have to go to here. We have to go play this. We have to go do that. And it was just nice to say, you know what, girls, we're just going to stay home. Let's play some board games. Let's throw the ball around in the backyard. I don't feel like I have to take them to Chuck E. Cheese every minute. You know what I mean? That was actually really nice. And it was good just to kind of just slow down a little bit. And what I really loved about it, I loved going for walks and seeing other families going for walks. Mm-hmm. You didn't see that anymore because parents are pulled in so many different ways nowadays. Taking their kids to practice, doing this, mom's working, dad's working, it was just, you're just always on the run, and it was nice to just slow down and kind of remember, why you live. You live for your family.
Well, great stuff, man. It's like old time Italy right there, man. So let me ask you this. So you graduated in 91, played football late 80s, early 90s. How has the game, high school football, changed from then to now, fast forward 30 years? How's that changed?
I don't know. Well, there's actually some obviously rule changes, so they're making the game safer, which is a good thing, But honestly, and I don't know if this sounds good or bad, one reason why I like football, or I should say I love football, is because I love the violent nature of it. Not because I'm a violent guy, but I like the violent nature of it because with that element of violence, with that element of fear, right? Because you can get hurt. With that element of fear, it makes people become courageous. You can't be courageous unless there's some fear involved. And that's why I like to see people overcome their fears and kind of, give everything they can. And so that's really what I love about football. And I don't think that aspect has changed. And that's what I really love most about it.
How about the game itself? I know the game seems like, when I see high school, it looks more like college, which it looks more like, in the pro game looks more like college. So just talk about some of the differences on the field.
Oh yeah, it's a lot more sophisticated. I think the X's and O's behind it, and I think a few reasons we use a lot of different terminologies. There's a lot of different clinics out there. So you have these pros putting on clinics and the colleges putting on clinics, teaching the high school coaches what they do, and then we start to mimic that and adapt that for high school kids. I think another reason is because it's just some of the technology is there as well. So you could break down film and you can see this, and you can share film. That also helps. And just a simple thing like wristbands, like the wristbands kids wear on there. I mean, before all these kids had to remember all these plays. So you're going to limit your playbook on all the plays you remember or whatever that. Now you just have them, so you just call it like a number and a letter, and they can just read it right off there and they know what to do. So that kind of helps make a little bit more diverse, kind of dynamic offense with multiple formation, multiple plays, because you're not just relying on the kid to remember all these plays, all these techniques, and what to do.
The kids now can chuck it down the field.
Oh well, yeah, they can. I mean, I have to say, I mean, I don't. Are they better athletes now than back then? I mean, that's like, are you gonna compare like the 85 Bears to the 62 Packers? It's always hard to compare those kind of things. But I mean, we are bigger. Kids are bigger, stronger, and faster because of they know how to work out. They know more nutrition than you did back in the 70s. And I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I love Jack Lambert, but Jack Lambert was a middle linebacker, Hall of Famer, and he was like he was like 190 pounds. You know, now middle linebackers are like 265 pounds, and they run just as fast or even faster. Yeah, so it's insane. So
Bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's where it's heading. So before we get into something called rapid fire here, as we are celebrating Union-Endicott's Tigers football team with head coach Tom Baleno, and we are here from Progressive Dental on 565 Hooper Road. And you can find not only this Progressive Dental in Endwell, New York, but all 5 locations in the southern tier by going to progressivedentalny.com. Sonny and D, Sonny Spira, and myself, Dan Tortora. Coach, for you to have what you have right over your heart right now, which is UE, what does it mean, and how do you get your heart involved in these games?
well, well, I mean, what does it mean? It means everything to me. I mean, it's so much fun, and you don't coach if you don't love it, you know. So, and you're not around kids if you don't love kids and working with the kids. So, I mean, it's everything I do. I mean, I teach and I coach, and I decided to go into that profession because I love working with kids. So, it means everything. I mean, it doesn't define me though. I mean, I want to make that clear too. You know, what really defines me is my family. And that's going to be, you know, my parents, my wife, my daughters. That's what really defines me. However, you know, football and coaching football is my second family, and I I do that not for the title. I do that for the love of the game and the love of working with kids.
And so to go off of that, doing that for the love of it, like you said, it doesn't define you. It's a part of you, but you do it for the passion and the love of helping the community, helping the kids. Specifically to be at Union-Endicott and to be a Tiger, how would you define that? Why is this job the job that you wanted to have?
Well, I think it's just, I mean, you know what you grew up with, right? So that's one, you know, I've always loved UE. So even when I've coached in other areas in the community, and it was nice coaching there because you're doing something that you love, but, you know, you always wondered, oh, they'd be doing this different at UE, or it would just be, you know, it's just that excitement because, like you said, you kind of like pull on the past, and it's just something that you just love to hear. When you hear the eye of the tiger and you go out of the tunnel to that or whatever, I mean, it's just something that kind of gets you going because you just, you know, just rewound the clock like 35 years and you're a kid again, you know.
Love it.
So it's time to jump into rapid fire before we have the gentleman up here. And we're both going to ask you a question, Coach, and then you're going to ask us one each as well. I want to stay with that because it was interesting this week that Dino, the head coach for Syracuse, Dino Babers, was asked about the music pregame and what he chooses and whatnot. You just talked about Eye of the Tiger. So it makes sense with the Tigers to have that. But is that the great? I mean, when you hear that, what does it make you think of? And would you ever think of changing that song?
Well, we don't always listen to that song. I mean, if I had my way, I would pick some different music, but I do let the captains pick their music, and kids nowadays have different types of taste than what I do. Yeah. So that's always a struggle, and there's always a compromise going on with that. But you know, what does that really mean to me? I mean, it's just really, it's talking about really what I love about football. It's working for others, overcoming your fears, you know, having self-sacrifice. So that's kind of what I take out of kind of like the songs that I like to choose from.
I like that. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're in rapid fire or last question?
We're in rapid fire.
Okay, so you're a Steeler fan. I'm a Bills fan. They're playing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you for a prediction because I don't want to hear you say Steelers. So pick who would you, if you got a chance to go live to a football game, be on the sidelines, two things. What one coach would you want to literally watch operate, and what two teams would you like to play in any era?
In any era. Well, man, this is a tough one. So, well, obviously I got to stick with the Steelers. I've actually never been to a Steelers game ever. You know what I mean? So I like to go to one, but it's hard to get to them during the season. So I would have to probably go like the, 76, Pittsburgh Steelers. I like to see Mean Joe Green, of course, Jack Lambert. Like I said, I like the physicality of the steel curtain. So, coach, you know what? I always like Tom Landry. And I don't know if it's because of his hat or what it was, but I always like Tom Landry. So I'd like to see, that guy, because I'm more of a passionate kind of, you show your passion right out there, and not one of those guys that are just always even keeled. So yeah. So I'd like to see, is he always like that, or does he have some of like his coaching goons, I guess, like fire the guys up and then he comes and calms. So I like to see that kind of dynamic.
That's
That'd be
cool.
pretty good.
That's great.
I like that. All right, Coach, you can ask Sonny one and me as well. I'll let you ask Sonny first.
All right, well, Sonny, I guess. The question is, you're a big basketball guy, of course, So, and I still believe that you still play basketball, right?
No.
Well, no more pickup games.
No,
Okay,
no,
all right. Well, now that I know that, so what made you decide to stop playing your pickup games? Was it the lost jump shot? Was it you just can't get up as well? Is it your knees? What was it?
There were two things.
I think it's because he kept
Two
beating
things.
everybody.
No, there was one. There was one that. The one was the competitive nature of it. I love the competitive nature of it, but I went too far, and I just said I can't do this. I got to go to work tomorrow. So that, and there was I had the kids were getting older, and it was a time issue, and it was the body. So it was the knees, it was the back, it was my hand, and it just got to be where, okay, if something's coming at me, if they're coming at me hard, I'm gonna go back at hard, right? So then I was like, I can't do this anymore. So if I can't play at that level, I'm just not gonna play at all. So that's it. Channel it differently.
Yeah.
All right, what's your one for me, Coach?
Oh, well, I guess my question is, I just basically met you, so I don't really know anything really about you. So, athletics. What do you love about athletics or high school sports, or what sports did you play?
So growing up, my dad is a baseball fan, and I love basketball. And so my dad put me in Little League, put me in T-ball and all that. I got hit by a wild pitch right above my kidney in Little League, and the doctor gave me kind of like what could have happened. And I looked at my dad, and I'm like, all right, well, this is my way out of this. But I played basketball since I was 7, and I can shoot, but I'm 5'8". So I got recruited D3 to Marywood University, where I ended up going, and I got to know the coach a little bit. But the funny thing about it is, coming out of high school, I was coming off a coach, really bad experience. I said, Coach, I don't think I want to do it. He said, come train with us, just come run up and down the court, just get a feel for it. I ended up not doing it my freshman season. The guy backed out of broadcasting. I got called in that November, sat in the seat, created the name, the show, the logos, the graphics, everything, and just ran from there. And it became really close with the coach that would have been my coach by being the broadcaster of his games. So, and I still to this day, I love it. If you give me a basketball, you put me on a court, I'll play until it's midnight and I won't think about it. And there's just, I don't know, there's something about a basketball in my hands. I don't see time. I don't see anything. And it's one of the places where I shut my brain off. So yeah, I love it very much so. So thank you for the question. That's to calm down, I think, sometimes. Play basketball. So it's very good therapy. So Sonny and D